Reuben Cantu was only 17 years old when he was convicted of capital murder and later executed for this crime. Years later, new evidence arose which proved that Cantu was in fact not guilty, but it was too late for him. Reuben tragically lost his life due to the shortcomings of our criminal justice system. His story is just one example of why we should not have the death penalty in the United States. Today, I am here to persuade you that the death penalty is unconstitutional and should be abolished. The National Academy of Sciences reports that at least 4.1% of defendants sentenced to death in the U.S. are innocent. First, I will go over the problems associated with the death penalty. Second, I'll discuss why this issue has persisted. And third, I'll offer solutions which can be implemented in place of the death penalty in the United States. Let's start by going over the problems. Contrary to popular belief, the death penalty does not deter crime, and it disproportionately affects vulnerable populations. First, let's talk about the crime issue. The ACLU reported in 2021 that there is no evidence that shows that the death penalty deters crime. In fact, in states that have the death penalty, there is little to no difference in their crime rates compared to states that do not have the death penalty. This shows that the death penalty does little to better a society, and therefore it should not be in place. Now, let's move on to the problem of the vulnerable populations at risk. In an article published by the Associated Press in 2020, it stated that 52% of the death row inmates were Black, while approximately 60% of the population is white. Additionally, killers of white people were more likely to face the death penalty than killers of Black people. It is a major issue that Black and brown people are overrepresented on death row. People's lives are in jeopardy due to the shortcomings of our criminal justice system, and until we have reform in all of these social issues, we should not be making life or death decisions. So again, the little to no evidence that shows that there is a deterrent of crime because of the death penalty and the overrepresentation of vulnerable populations are two major issues associated with the death penalty. Now that we've discussed some problems, let's go over some reasons why this is happening. The history of the death penalty provides context as to why it has persisted for so long in the United States. One, the fact that the death penalty was a notion brought over by European settlers, and two, the fact that the death penalty was supposedly reinvented in the 1970s. First, let's talk about the European settlers. The Death Penalty Information Center published that Britain influenced America's use of the death penalty more than any other country. The United States has evolved rapidly as a nation since the first settlers arrived here. There is no reason why a notion such as capital punishment should still be in place just because the first settlers believed in it. So, moving on to the second cause. In the 1970s, the modern-day death penalty was introduced. The St. Louis University Law Journal published in 2018 that in 1972, the Supreme Court deemed the death penalty unconstitutional, but in 1976 reinstated it, but tried to do so with a more narrow lens. So already the Supreme Court did not believe that the death penalty was constitutional, but due to pushback, they changed their minds and tried to reform it in a way to make it more case by case. This new death penalty, however, is not working out well. It is clear that there is little that can be done to reform the death penalty to make it constitutional. So now that we've gone over why the death penalty has persisted for so long, let's move on to some solutions. The death penalty is no longer needed in the United States, and one solution which can replace it are rehabilitation programs. Another solution is the implementation of life in prison sentences instead of the death penalty. The Wisconsin Law Review published in 2019 that the death penalty embodies a vengeful, punitive nature that infects the entire criminal justice system. The death penalty serves no purpose other than to sentence unlucky people to death, not even the worst people. We as a nation should focus on rehabilitatory programs in order to get down to the root of the problem regarding crimes. Now let's talk about life in jail as an alternative to the death penalty. The Los Angeles Times published in 2021 that the Supreme Court ruled in 2005 to outlaw the death penalty for murderers under 18. Clearly, the Supreme Court is already moving away from using the death penalty as punishment and moving towards life without parole. This sentencing can be implemented for everyone, not just minors, and in fact is a cheaper alternative to capital punishment. So clearly there are other solutions which can be implemented instead of the death penalty. One being the focus on rehabilitation, and two, sentencing offenders to life without parole instead of sentencing them to death. So today I persuaded you to abolish the death penalty in the United States. I did this first by going over the problems, second, the causes, and third, the solutions which can be implemented instead of the death penalty. No one should have to lose their life because of the shortcomings of our criminal justice system, and until we do something about it, people are going to continue to do so.